Back a couple months ago, I did an episode with Brandon Maddox, who is the founder and owner of Silencer Central. You should listen to that episode. It's episode 197. I love this company, I love this brand, and I love the American-made product that Silencer Central produces. I use the Banish 30 on my hunting rifle, and if you guys follow me on Instagram and you saw that video I put together, you'll see that it's not like what Hollywood portrays it as. It's not like it silences the rifle down into nothing. But it makes a huge difference. Like, my ears don't ring when I shoot. The animals don't know where the shot is coming from. It disorients the sound. And Silencer Central makes it super easy for you guys. Jump on to silencercentral.com and pick one out. You could ship your rifle to them. They'll thread your barrel. They'll ship it back. This is like a 10-day process. And the ATF process is shortened significantly. It's like down to 48 hours or less. It's the best time ever to get a silencer on your weapon, and you should check it out because it really is a game changer. SilencerCentral.com is where you could find them, or you can call 866-891-4494, and they're happy to answer questions. It's crazy. They actually have people that answer their phone. Again, guys, go to SilencerCentral.com. It's one of my favorite sponsors out there. These guys are just absolutely world-class with these world-class products, and I can't recommend putting a silencer on your hunting rifle enough. Save your ears, disorient the sound in case you need another shot. I mean, it's a game changer, folks. Check it out. American-made products are the name of the game for me and the Western Huntsman. I really will go out of my way and spend more money to buy things that are American-made and keeps jobs and things like that right here in the United States of America. That brings us to Vantage Point Archery. If you haven't listened yet, wherever you listen to your podcast as, go find episode 201, Vantage Point Archery with Ryan Corkwell and Jeff Stringer. Those are the founders of Vantage Point Archery, and these are great dudes. They'll give you a lot of the insight and information that you need on picking out your broadhead for this season. Don't wait any longer, guys, because season is going to be here before we know it. It's almost here. I am going to be shooting the VPA Omega with bleeders for this elk season. They have the single bevels, 2-blade, 3 blades. These are great broadheads. They're American-made. They're tried and true. They're tested. I've been shooting them all summer. Really impressed with this company, and I couldn't be happier having them as a sponsor on this show. Happy to partner with them. Thanks, guys.
There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive, and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Western Huntsman Podcast. This is Jim Huntsman, your host, coming at you from the Broken Town studio right here in Northwest Montana, and brought to you by Eastman's Hunting Journals. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for joining me. Thank you all for all the kind comments that came out of that last episode with my buddy Jaden Bells there. That was really cool. That was a cool discussion, and as usual, I just like hearing from you guys. So thank you for that. Hey, real quick before I introduce this next guest, I wanted to just announce something I'm really excited about. The show's getting a new sponsor, and it's one I've been kind of hoping would come around for actually several years, and that sponsor is Loopold. And so I just want to make you guys aware it is going to be kicking off here in a few weeks, and it's very honoring, humbling, all that kind of stuff to have somebody new give us a shot. Just little old Jim Huntsman here at the Western Huntsman giving me a shot means it's a big deal to me. So I appreciate them, and I appreciate all of you guys that support our sponsors. They make this show possible. I couldn't do it without these guys. So. And I couldn't do it without you guys supporting the show by using our sponsors. So thank you very much. All right, guys. So this week, I want to talk a little bit about some mule deer management, some outfitting, stuff like that, that has been kind of top of mind lately. And I can't think of anybody better to bring on for this. He is the owner of Sizzlin' S Outfitters and out here in Montana. And his name is Rod Paschke. And I'm honored to have him on the show. Rod, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Did I say your last name right?
Close enough.
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. All right. I always get nervous. It's like kind of stressful with a new last name, if I'm going to say it right or not. And then I go blank right before I say it. So I always check.
No, you're good.
So Rod, you've done rodeoing, you've got an outfitting business. You live here in Montana, and you're involved with wildlife management in the state of Montana. Can you give everybody kind of the bird's eye view of who you are, and we'll kind of take it from there?
Yeah, I'm a transplant from North Dakota originally, born and raised in Williston, North Dakota. And after I graduated high school, I went to Wyoming on a rodeo scholarship to Casper College and then to University of Wyoming, where I got a bachelor's degree in ag business. And rodeoed for a couple of years, and then I moved to Montana, took a job with a cattle supplement business, and met my future wife, current wife, and never left. We got married in '99 and be 25 years here in a couple weeks.
Oh wow! Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I never thought I'd see 25-year anniversary, but I am. I'm about to.
So good for you.
Yeah. Yep. And then I started guiding in 2001, helping a guy, just guiding for him, and the opportunity came up to buy it. So I bought it, I think, in 2005, and been in business ever since.
And you do the excuse me, you do the hunt giveaway for Eastman's Hunting Journals out there, huh?
I do. They've been with me. We've been doing that for 20 years. This was the 20th year. They bring their hunt winners out to me, and it's been a great relationship. They're awesome people, and they do a great job with that the hunt winner program, and it's a blast. It's stressful for me because you want to make sure everything's perfect on camera, but it always works out, and I've met some great people doing it, and it's great. I love it.
So I think I'm disqualified from being able to win the free hunt from Eastman. So I don't think I'm going to come see you anytime soon. But
you and me both. You and me both.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, for anybody listening, if you want to check out Eastman's. Jump on the Eastman's website, and it has all the details about how to get entered in to win that free hunt giveaway. It's always a great hunt. It's always mule deer, isn't it, Rod?
Yep. It's easiest, it's on a license, so we can get the license, and we'll throw an antelope hunt in if people can draw it.
Yeah.
But it's just it's hard to draw. So
yeah, that is a tough area to get an antelope tag in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good area, but it's hard.
So, and then tell me about your involvement with mule deer management. That you're on the board of, I can't remember. You explain it.
I'm I've been the Region 7 director for MOGA for 8 or 10 years, something like that. About to move up to president-elect here in January. And so I've always been involved that way. And then in February, Ben Lamb and Rob Arno put a council together to discuss what we can do to improve our mule deer situation, and they chose myself and Eric Elvis to be on there as outfitters, and then the rest of the people were basically somebody from each region in Montana, plus another landowner from the southeast part of Montana. And these are people that we've butted heads with for 10, 15 years on Randy Newberg's forum Hunt Talk, and it got a little out of hand a few times. Just we didn't see eye to eye, and they called us all together, and it was very remarkable when we sat down and we kind of walked around each other like a bunch of Angus bulls until we sat down and decided, kind of discovered that we were all on the same page, and it was a great day. And we came out with some ideas that we're going to try to move forward.
Well, I want to talk about some of those ideas. I want to, before we go there though, before we go there, I'd like to kind of get your, I don't know, your take on the status of mule deer in the state of Montana and honestly anywhere throughout the American West. I think, let me give you my kind of overall look or view as to, with mule deer in particular, they tend to, in my opinion, they tend to struggle more than any other big game species, from the standpoint of they seem to be most affected by habitat changes. They seem to be most affected by, winter range getting cut off. I know that they have been pretty well affected by the whitetail population increasing in some of the higher country around where I'm at, both on the Idaho and the Montana side. Places where we used to see a lot of mule deer up high, we're seeing more and more whitetail and fewer mule deer. And this is all coming from a guy. This is non-scientific. This is just absolute pure, speculation from a guy that spends a lot of time in the woods. And so I just feel like, the future of mule deer has always kind of been this thing where, it seems like it's hanging in the balance of, one initiative or that, this and that. What's in your opinion, what's kind of the situation, if you will, when it comes to mule deer and mule deer management?
So a couple things, and you you pointed out a couple. Couple things you didn't was predators. We have a serious predator problem, especially on I'm going to use eastern Montana as an example, with the smaller predators, with coyotes and mountain lions, and then of course, obviously in the western part of the state, you got bears, you got wolves, and you got coyotes and mountain lions. So you got 4 of them. We've only got a couple of them.
Sure.
That's huge. And then eastern Montana's been through about a 3 to 4 year drought, and it's affected the deer a lot. These mule deer, everybody thought, well, they all died, and I don't think they died. And a lot of the biologists have come to the conclusion they don't think they've died either, because, we ranch as well as hunt. And so I'm out amongst deer 365 days a year. And we're not finding skeletons. We're not finding carcasses. We're not finding anything that would indicate a mass die-off. I think these deer have just packed up their stuff and left. If you were to go to a restaurant and they were out of food, you'd probably get up and go to the next restaurant. If they were out of food, you go to the next restaurant. I just think that's, and it's not just me that thinks that. There's a lot of us that think that. And will they come back? Yes, but it's going to take a minute. It's going to be something else that drives them back to us. But between that and predators, and obviously some overhunting, Region 7 was famous there for a few years, issuing 11,000 doe tags in Region 7 alone, mule deer doe tags.
Hey, sorry guys, we dropped the call there. We're going to pick this back up. Rod, you were talking about some like 11,000 doe tags for mule deer issued in Unit 7 there in Montana.
In Region 7, they were issuing 11,000 mule deer doe tags. And I'm also on the MOGA board, and a bunch of us are like, hey, you need to pump the brakes. This is not going to sustain. It's not going to be good. And they're like, no, we got to get to the landowner tolerance. And we could see what was coming, but they wouldn't roll up. And I think we're now seeing the effects of that. Just overhunting. So we did get a deal passed through the commission this last fall, in Region 6 and 7. We started in 7, and actually the commissioners said, well, if we're going to do it in 7, we better do it in 6. But mule deer doe hunting only on private. So it kind of protected those deer on the Custer Forest, it protected the deer on the BLM state. So we're trying to protect some of these does.
Yeah, I'm going to say something super controversial, man. In my humblest of opinions, I don't think they should issue any freaking mule deer doe tags.
Hey, I'm on your team.
I think that there are areas throughout. I know there's like an area in Oregon, maybe it can handle some does being taken or whatever. And, regionally speaking, maybe there's some areas here and there where I might make an exception to that. But my overall thought is I don't think we should hunt mule deer doe at all. Yeah. I mean, part of that might be I grew up in I grew up in Utah. And Utah is back then, I don't know what it is now, but back then it was a mule deer only state. That's all we had. And there was no such thing as killing does when I was a kid. Nobody, right. There were no doe tags. Nobody was out there shooting does at all. And it's not like I'm against shooting does, for whitetail, not at all. That's great. But whitetail is a whole different ball game than mule deer. And that's my opinion, and I'm going to get some flack over saying that because there's a lot of people that are like, well, we want to fill the freezer, and it's like I totally understand that. Shoot cows all you want, cow elk, shoot whitetail does all you want, as long as you have the tag for it. Mule deer does, that's my opinion. What say you?
I'm with you 100%. And I actually talked to the wildlife manager of the Region 7 office about this. And he said, I said, why can't you drop it to 0? And he said, you have to, and I can't remember what the number was or if he even told me, but they had to keep it. They couldn't go below a certain level. If they did, it would take legislation to get them back. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, what's the problem with that? I bet in a couple, sessions from now, we can get them back if we need to. And he's like, well, we just can't drop them to nothing. And we shouldn't be shooting any of them. I am in 100% agreement with you. Whitetail does, yes, that's fine.
There just seems to be a difference in how, this is a better way to say it. Whitetail seem to be super adaptable. They just seem to be able to thrive in any environment. Like where I'm at, man, there's whitetail everywhere down low. There's whitetail mid slope. There's whitetail. I saw a huge whitetail buck running through I don't know what the elevation was, but I'm high up on top of the mountain where we used to only see mule deer. And there's whitetail up there, and they seem to, and I've talked to like Jim Heffelfinger about this, who's that deer expert out of Arizona. He's been on the show a couple of times. And I think I spoke with Dr. Valerius Geist about it, the guy that wrote Mule Deer Country. That's what his career was based on, mule deer. And what they were kind of both implying is when whitetails start moving into mule deer country, the whitetail will end up outperforming and kind of pushing mule deer out. And
100%. Yep,
what have you seen with that?
I've seen it happen. And I've also, the other problem we have, and I've watched it firsthand, is elk doing the same thing. When elk start to encroach in your elk, like eastern Montana, a couple places that I've hunted had the opportunity to hunt myself without guiding, just myself hunting, and went from being best mule deer hunting I've ever laid eyes on and no elk. And all of a sudden the elk started to show up, and you could just steadily every year watch the mule deer population drop to where, elk are hard on mule deer, extremely hard.
Why do you think that is? Is it because are they eating the same thing? Are they just more pushy? Because I can't quite put my finger on what happens with the whitetail versus mule deer thing, other than I think that the whitetails just tend to outbreed.
I think they're a little more aggressive.
Yeah,
what I've seen, I don't know on that, but I know like elk, elk are predominantly grazers and deer are browsers, which we all know. So it's not like they're competing. Well, elk will eat anything, but I don't know what the deal is, and a lot of people don't know what it is. Guy Eastman and I have talked about this a lot. But you see a herd of elk start to expound, and you'll watch your mule deer leave, 100%. And obviously, eastern Montana, our elk herds are starting to explode, and I think that's a little bit of it. But I think the drought and predators are the main.
So, what is your, like, if you had all the power, if the the governor of Montana. He said, Rod, you are in charge of wildlife management for the next 12 months. What would you do to help mule deer?
Well, it goes back to our what we come out of that council with, and that is our proposal is to not hunt mule deer in the rut anymore. And a group of us been saying this for 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. Why are we hunting mule deer in November? We should be hunting them in October before they're rutting. You might catch the beginning of it at the end of October.
Sure.
I think as far as age class and fawn recruitment, if we can start taking the heat off them in November when they're trying to rut, or they're trying to breed, I should say, and those, as we all know, mule deer get pretty silly. I think we'd save a lot of them, and we don't want to take opportunity away from anybody, whether it be the resident or the non-resident. We're just going to move the dates of that opportunity to a different time. So in the perfect world, we'd be hunting mule deer in October, and we'd be hunting elk and whitetail in November.
What do you think the hunter's reaction to that would be from the standpoint of, well, like I look at it like, man, if you did that, right? And again, I'm using this as an example, as if you were just solely in charge for however, long time. And you're like, okay, we're going to get rid of, November mule deer hunting and, move that into the October season or whatnot. I feel like you'd have hunters with pitchforks coming after you over that decision.
Oh, they already have, because we've gotten it out. We've gotten it out there, through hunt talks, through different forums. And, it's funny. You see a bunch of pushback, but then you see, I think after this season, we're going to see more people on board a little bit. Mm-hmm. Nobody likes change, right? I mean, everybody's afraid of change. And here's two outfitters that operate in eastern Montana, predominantly mule deer, and we're two of them that are pushing for it. A lot of people are like, well, why would you want it? You hunt for a living. Yeah, and we want to continue to do that. And if we don't change something, we won't be. Nobody will be.
Do you get more pushback on that proposal from outfitters or just hunters?
Just hunters. And there's a few outfitters that, and I get it. It's not going to be as easy. I get that, which doesn't bother us. So doesn't bother us a bit. We kind of look forward to it. But yeah, there's a few outfitters that are pushing back, but the main outfitters that are pushing back, and I understand this, are the guys in the western part of the state that hunt the backcountry, like Bob Marshall, some of that stuff, where they won't be able to start hunting rifle hunting elk until 1st November, and they're hitting the panic button. They might not even be able to get in there because of snow, and which I get that at 100%. And that's, again, this is just a proposal, nothing set in stone. It's basically, it was to get some people talking and getting some ideas out there. So
yeah, I mean, what you say, it triggers my, I don't know. My mind is slow and shallow, but I've been out there enough to know that like something does need to happen from the standpoint of managing mule deer so that they can recover from these, like you were talking about the winter kill a little bit, and I think winter kill, that was another difference that I've noticed between whitetail and mule deer, is the whitetail tend to recover a lot faster. From like if we have a really bad winter and whatnot. But, I'm like, for me, I have mixed feelings about the November issue because, I guide for an outfitter that's our big tag, is this November rifle hunt where they can go up and they have an opportunity on a whitetail, on a mule deer, on an elk, all at the same time. And gosh, somebody at our outfitter, they got just a smoking mule deer this year, and we just don't see them like that. And
right.
But at the same, we should be able to see them because years ago we did. And so like that's where I get myself into like this mixed bag of ideas where it's like, man, I'd hate to lose that. and have that kind of 3 different species opportunity in one season, because it is a lot of fun. But at the same time, like that big mule deer buck that was taken, I want to say the score, but I kind of want to play a game with it later on down the road, so I'm not going to say the score yet. But that caliber of buck was not like some super uncommon thing like it is now.
Right.
And so something has to change, and I don't think you're off base. Like, even let me ask you this, Rod, because like when I lived in Idaho, they would do this thing where the rifle hunt for mule deer kind of was mostly in October, but it would go like the first maybe 10 days or so into November. And before that real peak rut happened, is something like that, like where would you be at on some kind of management plan that entailed, just the first week or so of November and then cutting it off and it's whitetail only after that?
You know what? You're not. I agree with you 100%. But here's the other kicker. What we see, well, you see it over there. We really see it over here. So we've got our deer and elk seasons are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say somebody draws a bull elk permit in 799, which is down there, Broadus, Isham, that country, Ashland. Okay, so a guy from, I'm going to pick on Missoula for easy figuring. Some guy from Missoula draws the 799 8-6 permit, and he loads 3 of his buddies up. Let's go to eastern Montana. Let's go to the Custer Forest. Let's go wherever. Let's go. You can help me kill this bull. Help me find a bull.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you bet. We've all got deer tags. They come out here, and they're looking for a bull elk. Hell, maybe they just have a cow permit. I don't know. But some's going to bleed. And if they can't find an elk, the mule deer are taking it on the chin, because they're hunting and maybe all they can find or whatever is a mule deer buck, and they're not going to go home empty-handed.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just stating the facts. The breaks where I hunt are no different. These people come out, whether they have a bull tag, whether they have a cow tag, they've got that general deer tag in their pocket, and they're opportunists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can separate our elk hunts from our deer hunts, or our mule deer hunts, should say, because they kind of reside in the same type country, I think we could save the lives on a lot of them too. So back to your point, that overlap is what's, I think, has been pretty hard on these deer.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it does. I think the element that I didn't throw in there that applies to Montana did not apply to Idaho, from the standpoint of, while that mule deer season was going, there was no elk season going. So we didn't have like for example, in North Idaho, we didn't have folks from Boise coming up and whacking every 2-point mule deer that they saw, just for the sake of not going home empty-handed kind of thing,
There you go.
Yep. And so that element is different. And so I didn't even think about that, but you're right. That's exactly what happens. We get that too. We'll get somebody that gets an elk tag, and they come over to this neck of the woods, and that's their goal, their focus. If you asked them what they were here doing, they're going to tell you they're here elk hunting. But those trucks are leaving with some of these younger bucks, and well, I mean, again, I'm not a trophy hunter. I do feel like we do need to look at some point. Let's let some of these deer get a little bigger, right?
Exactly. but how do we regulate that without
I don't know,
to where it's either legal or it's not legal?
Yeah, I don't know, because I looked into there's always this argument of doing like a minimum point. Unless you were born yesterday, you're very well aware of the fact that a lot of companies spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising and just their overly proudness of, if that's a word, their name recognition. This is not the case with Hoffman boots, guys. Don't go drop $500 on a good pair of boots when you can go to hoffmanboots.com and check out the Hoffman Explorers. They start at $370. I could save you 10% off of that by using promo code Huntsman10. Guys, I've been traipsing through the mountains of the western United States for almost a decade in these boots. They're totally waterproof. There's no break-in period. They're every bit as good as those high-dollar boots out there that you see for a lot less. So don't waste your money on the other stuff. These boots have everything you need for a lot less, and I wouldn't steer you in the wrong direction. I wouldn't recommend them if I don't use them myself and don't absolutely love them. Check it out at hoffmanboots.com. Promo code is Huntsman10. On a buck, it's got to be a 4-point minimum or a 5-point minimum, but unless somebody's seeing anything that I don't see and haven't seen, there is no data to suggest that makes those units any better. It doesn't increase the population. It doesn't make higher trophy class bucks. And so I don't know why that doesn't seem to work, but the data that I've looked at doesn't seem to do it. It doesn't seem to make it doesn't move the needle at all. And so if somebody has something that has real hard data that disputes what I just said, I'd love to see it. Yeah, and you can email it to jim@thewesternhuntsman.com. What's that?
Data shows in a couple of these states that have tried it, Colorado, Utah, it doesn't work. And the analogy I use, we have a very, very, very good set of very good genetically bred black cattle, big set of them. And it'd be like us, and they're very highly sought after. The steer calves are off them and the heifer calves, just because of 50-some years of genetics. And that my in-laws have been buying bulls from the same place, yada yada. What would happen if we took a Charolais bull and just all of a sudden got a wild hair and let's put a Charolais bull or a Hereford bull on them? All of a sudden, your genetics are gone that you've worked so hard for years. Now, if you start putting 4-point or better on, now all of a sudden now you're growing these great big 6.5, 7.5-year-old 3-points that are off limits that are breeding your does, right? And you're still aren't saving the lives of the 3.5-year-old 4-points.
Yeah, exactly.
So it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and it was not to keep bringing up Jim Heffelfinger, but I actually sent him an email because of something I saw when I was in the field at some point, and I'm kind of watching these little younger bucks getting lucky, if you will, in November.
Yeah.
And I asked him, like, is there data or like a percentage of what you think some of these younger bucks? Because we always look at it like, okay, only the biggest buck on the block is breeding these does. And he responded, and he's like, no, that is not true. In fact, you'd be surprised as to how many young bulls and young bucks end up being that breeder buck. And so he's and that's kind of, this was a couple of years ago, so I don't remember exactly. I'm totally paraphrasing here, but those were his words, essentially, that you'd be surprised with how many younger bucks end up breeding those does. And so that kind of speaks to what you're talking about, where those bigger bucks would be under constant pressure, and so the older, more mature class bucks that are breeding would be reduced even more so if you had those antler point, restrictions. And so, and I just, again, the data just doesn't support it. And the other thing to that is, I don't ever want to be like somebody who is like, scorning somebody for shooting a little 2-point mule deer buck, because I've done it. I've killed a little young buck like that before. Right. And if it's the last day of the season, I'll probably do it again. And so I don't know if I can get on board with that kind of regulation. What do you think is like, in terms of setting, whether it's a law or just by like setting hunting standards, and in terms of, trying to force people to shoot more mature animals?
Well, there's no way we're ever going to get to a point where we can shame somebody into leaving the 4-corns alone, the, young 4-points, I should say, alone. I mean, the trophy's in the eye of the beholder. That's their tag. They can do what they want with it. Even who are we to sit and tell them that they can't? But if we set the season dates different, where it's not as easy to do it, you know what I'm saying? Now that's a whole different ballgame.
That's a good point. And the other side to that too is the fact that I think it would be fair to say that the vast majority of deer hunters tend to shoot the smaller bucks, the 3.5 and younger, right? The vast majority, that's what they're killing. So if that element of the hunt were taken out and all you could shoot are like 4.5-year-old bucks or bigger, would that still be valued as much as it is now? Because if you shoot a 5.5-year-old mule deer or a whitetail, that's a mature buck. That's a great buck, right?
Yep.
So would that, if there was some way or element to take out this thing where you can only shoot that caliber of a buck, more of those bucks might start hitting the ground, and would that be as valuable to the hunter? Would that still be a trophy, if you will, to the hunter? If everybody, that's when you get a buck, that's what you get anyway. Does that make sense? How I'm like it takes the rarity out of it, and that's what.
Yeah, I don't know how you would. Yeah, I don't know how you'd regulate that. I mean,
you wouldn't. I'm saying that, like, that would be totally fantasy land, but it's taking the value of that more mature, more sought after trophy style buck, class buck, and kind of ruining that, in my opinion.
No, I get it. And how do you? I mean, not picking on any age class here, but you take a 70-year-old guy that loves to hunt, has hunted, for 50, 60 years, and they're not capable of going where you and I can or whatever physically. Mm-hmm. They're going to be an opportunist, right? So
yeah,
that's a tough one. Or a young kid. I sympathize. I mean, I empathize with all of them. I don't, I'm not picking on anybody. But if we made that season to where, I'll be honest, in October, as you well know, you come to eastern Montana or anywhere in Montana, it's not going to be drive these 2-track roads on the BLM and the wherever and sight these deer that are rutting, because they ain't going to be rutting.
Yeah, they're a lot harder.
We're going to dig them out.
Yep.
And I think that is, and again, we're not taking opportunity away. We're just changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
exactly a little more difficult.
I mean, I had a great example of this with one of my hunting clients this year. He had this surgery that the surgeon like jacked up his spine on his back, so this guy couldn't walk. It's not like he's a retired fighter pilot / commercial airlines pilot. He was a great guy, right? But he was not old enough to have such a disability. And the problem was I couldn't get him more than roughly 100 yards from the truck, but his bucket list item was an elk, and so that's really restricting if you can't go 100 yards or more. I ended and so he had obviously that combo tag, the elk and deer, and I ended up calling in a pretty decent 4-point whitetail, that a little 4x4. It was actually really fun. This area we were hunting, the bucks were just on fire, and rattled this buck in and came in. He'd never seen that before. He'd never seen, outside of on TV, somebody actually call in an animal, right? And so that part was really neat. But if I could have walked him up and over that drainage a little further, I'll bet you I could have rattled in a much bigger buck, right? And so that guy, if you had those kind of restrictions, what's he to do? What's he to do? Just not try to fulfill a dream?
I get it, but okay, he wanted to kill a bull, right?
Yeah, he wanted to kill a bull. They all want to kill a bull.
Yeah, I know it. I get it, and but he could have done the same thing with that whitetail in November.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is that if he came out, he's not going to be able to find a big mule deer buck in October, and hardly with his disability, he's most likely not going to find it in November either. And so I don't think that by changing the season, you're going to affect a lot of people that way. No. In this case, it was more like the discussion, around how many point restrictions should an area have. And, I don't know. I just don't see it.
And there's other factors in this proposal too. One of them being, let's say Jim Huntsman goes to buy his license as a resident or non-resident, you have to pick a district or region. It's kind of still up in the air, And let's say you want to come to 701 or 700 and hunt mule deer.
Mm-hmm.
You designate that. But okay, so you have the month of October to do that. But then you go home, let's say you don't where you live in western Montana. After November 1, you would not be allowed to go pick your rifle back up and go hunt a whitetail.
That's in the proposal? You cut out a little bit there. So
it's in the proposal.
Okay. I'm going to have to read through it. So I just want to kind of clarify. So if me living in western Montana bought a tag for 701, is that's the area you said?
Or whatever, 700, 701.
700, whatever, and for those of you outside of Montana, it's just how these units are numbered essentially. So I'm in 121. That's where I live, unit 121, right? And so if I bought a tag for 700 and specified that for mule deer, and I did not tag out, you're saying that when I got home and November 1st hit, I could no longer, I couldn't even fill a whitetail on that tag. Is that what you're saying? What about for residents having the ability? I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. What about the residents having the ability to buy separately a mule deer tag and a whitetail tag, and maybe having some sort of more a tougher? I don't know if a point system is the right way or what, but maybe you can't get a mule deer tag every year. And so but you could still, because whitetail, I mean, come on, they're not struggling. And so the wolves can't even seem to control the whitetail. And so, yeah, that can. What would your thoughts be on being able to get two set for residents only, a mule deer specific tag and a whitetail specific tag?
Back when I was a kid living in North Dakota, I remember a good friend of ours from Williston. He used to come over into Montana. Actually, his guy is named after, and he would come out here, and they'd go in the Bob Marshall, and he'd come back with a mule deer and a whitetail. Oh. There was a time, I don't know how long that time period was, but you could do that.
Yeah.
And while you're on that topic, another part of our proposal, or something that has came up, is, again, you need to designate, and we need to make this, okay, so the deer tag is a general deer tag, good for either species.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing Montanans, either residents or people, non-residents coming to Montana, have never had to make a choice. They could shoot anything on that tag. They could shoot a mule deer or a whitetail. They could shoot a mule deer buck or a mule deer doe, a whitetail buck or a whitetail doe. Maybe it's time we all have to make a choice. And that's something that's never been brought up. It's never been an option.
So you have to select during the tag purchase, when you're, mule deer only, whitetail only.
Yeah, exactly.
That's in the proposal.
It's been talked about. We haven't quite inserted it yet, but it's kind of there.
What happens now with the proposal that you have in place? What happens now? Where's that at?
Well, it'll have to go through the commission so that season setting. We had one in 23. Next season setting is 25.
Mm-hmm.
Biennial season setting be 25.
So the actual 2025 season won't be affected at all.
Ooh.
Yeah, it'd be affected for change like in 2026.
26.
Yeah.
So okay. 7,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure a lot of this out, man. I just came over from Idaho a little over a year ago, and Montana's a little more complicated. The regions and the units and the tags, it's a little more complicated than, yeah. Idaho's easy, man. Yeah, here's your tag. Go kill something.
Well,
not really. But, what's that?
I mean, Montana's really no different as far as their residents are concerned.
Yeah, that's true.
Buy the disbursements package, and if you want you'll have a general elk tag as well as your general deer tag, and then if you want to put in for a special elk permit, you can. And if you don't get one, you still got that general elk tag.
Yeah, I love it. I love the way Montana does it, man. It's way better.
Do you really?
I do. I love. Well, here's what I like. I'll tell you what I like is the fact that when you buy an elk tag, that's your elk tag, right, for the year. You could choose to go archery hunting, or you could choose to not go archery hunting. You can go on the heritage muzzle loader, or you can just stick to your rifle, whatever you want. Or if you don't get anything, you can go on all three of them. And there's something to be said for that. And that's how it was when I was a kid, growing up. And then that went away. And I remember, how bummed I was about that. But I love the fact that, okay, if I miss, like this last September, due to my day job, I did not get out and be able to go after elk very often. And September archery elk is my favorite thing to do. It's what I look forward to all year. But I didn't kill a bull in September. So I had, all of rifle season, and I've got all of the muzzle loader season. And it's not like that makes people kill more elk, in my opinion. I don't think it does. I still haven't killed an elk this year. I spent too much time working and guiding. And so I'm going to go slide in the old muzzle loader and see what I can do come the 14th when it opens. But, it's like, I just think that that's how it should be. And I understand that some states that's really difficult. But what's your take on the fact that like that elk tag is your elk tag throughout the season?
So another thing we discussed was choose your weapon. Mm-hmm. And again, so one of the biggest demons we're facing is overcrowding. That's what you hear most people bitch about, is overcrowding, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people
get to it, whether it be archery, whether it be rifle, muzzleloader is a moot point. I wish that would have never happened, but that's just my opinion. But
you don't like the muzzleloader season?
I don't, because I think we're stressing these animals too late in the year.
Yeah, there's probably I probably wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
And Jesus Christ, our season goes forever the way it is, and all of a sudden we add 2 more weeks to it, right in the time where they need to be kind of storing some fat reserves and really don't need pushed around and terrorized. But that's just me, again, opinion.
Yeah.
But the one of the biggest complaints with residents and non-residents is overcrowding. I think tell me your thoughts on a choose your weapon. Would that help with the overcrowding some?
Well, I can only speak to what experience I've had in those kind of hunts. And I could tell you, like, Idaho is basically a choose your weapon. You can get an A tag or a B tag for elk, right? And an A tag for elk is archery only. And then your B tag is your rifle tag. So on either one of those, if you buy the A tag, you've got all of September. And then when the regular general rifle season ends towards the end of October, with that A tag, I have like 4 days where I can go use a rifle on an elk in Idaho. And then vice versa, if you buy your B tag, they give you like 6 days during the archery season where you can go hunt with a bow. Did that make it? Do I think that there was less crowding in Idaho because of that? No, absolutely not. And I'll give you another one of my, probably a very unpopular opinion, Rod, but I think that overcrowding is made bigger an issue than it really is on like forums and social media than it really is. And I'm not saying we don't have some overcrowding. We do. Some units get more hammered than others. What I am saying is I think that it oftentimes becomes like a scapegoat as to why somebody may not have fulfilled their tag. And
I couldn't agree more.
I hunt some of the most crowded units in both Idaho and Montana because I have the Idaho lifetime license, so I hunt over there too. I get tags for both. And I can tell you, these are really crowded units. Does it frustrate me sometimes? Yeah, I do get a little frustrated about it. But can I still get away from people? You betcha, man. Yeah, like I feel like the overcrowding issue becomes a real big factor for folks that don't want to walk more than like a mile from their truck. And so it just becomes this thing. And again, this is going to be dependent on some of you guys listening might live in like what's that really popular unit in like Colorado or some of these areas that just get absolutely hammered. And they throw up, it's all non-residents and whatever. That does happen, guys. So don't send me messages saying that I'm saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. What I am saying is when we come out of the season and you're kind of bummed, you've got tag soup for dinner, and you get on Facebook, and the first thing everybody's going to say is like, well, I didn't get one because there was just so many freaking non-residents here and residents there, and they sell way too, the Fish and Game, they just trying to make so much money, and they're just selling way too many tags, and blah, 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 blah. And I see that, and it's like I also see way too many on these 2-track roads like you were talking about that I never see the trucks parked. They're always driving. And they're like, they don't wave at you because they're angry. There's somebody else on a dirt road that's in national forest or public land, whatever. But I never see, and I see the same trucks up and down these same roads all the time, and I never see these trucks parked. And then I see another truck that is parked, and that truck's parked there all day long, sometimes multiple days, and then I see that truck going out with a set of antlers in the back. And so I that's where I think that laziness contributes to this mythology that everywhere is so overcrowded that they can't find any deer and elk. I just think that for the most part is bullshit. And yeah, I'm going to get a lot of hate mail over that, but I always get away from the crowds.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also see block management areas over our side of the state in my neck of the woods, whether it be up here in the breaks or down, south where I hunt. And some of these block management areas, you might as well put a coffee shop up in the damn things because you'd probably make a small fortune, Yeah,
I've heard that, man.
Just get beat up.
I've heard that. So I'm not super familiar with that block management stuff as much as I am. There's just so much national forest where I live. Tell me what is that like? How is that set up even?
Block management. So there's type 1, there's type 2. Type 1, and I'm going to probably say this wrong, but type 1, or one of them, you can just go, there's a box, you pull up there's slips, you put your name, whatever, on the slip, address, or city, whatever, put it in there, and you go on. And the other type is you have to call ahead and basically make an appointment or reserve a spot, put it that way.
Oh, gotcha.
A little more controlled, but also the landowner can set them up to where they're walk-in only, or they can designate, no pheasant hunting here, no mule deer doe hunting here, or there's parameters that the landowner can set, and then the landowner gets paid $17 per hunter per day, with a max of 50,000. I also sit on the PLPW, and we got that raised to 50,000 as a cap. It was 25, went to 50,000. There's only a handful of ranches or landowners that hit that 50,000 cap.
Are you saying 50,000 cap in a day or a season?
$50,000 in a season.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, man, at $17 a pop, man, I should go out there and buy some land and become an investor.
No shit.
Right? Okay.
But no, it's 50,000 for the season. But a lot of those places are scorched earth. I mean, there's not a living thing on there. So, to be honest, a lot of that funding for block management comes from my clients and your clients.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So years ago when they had the guaranteed outfitter tag that they, thank God, it benefited us when they passed I-161 and took our guaranteed outfitter tag away and then increased the tag prices 43% across the board. And a lot of people gave Montana the finger at that point. And I mean, there was 7 years that Montana couldn't give all their tags away because they got too high. So then we started to get into the draw, towards kind of a sticky draw. And that's when myself and 3 other people developed the outfitter preference point. And when we got that through, okay, that $100 goes to fund 4 different programs, block management being one of them. In the last 3 years, the outfitter preference point has brought in right at $2.2 million.
That's the thing with all of this all of these discussions that we all have, whether online or on these podcasts or whatever. there's always like this give and take, there's always, we're always going to piss somebody off, right? Like, I'm not shitting you, Rod. The messages I'm going to get for saying most people use the overcrowdedness as an excuse as to why they didn't tag out. I will snapshot my inbox and
Do it.
and I'm just gonna. It is what it is. But there's always give and take with that. Like, what meaning? The block management program may suck for some people because it's not like free access or whatever. But the management and conservation funding that came out of that benefits everybody. But a lot of people aren't going to see that, I don't know. That's
the problem. The problem is no management. So it's kind of a misleading. It's a, false advertising, if you will.
Is it?
I shouldn't say that. Well, I mean, good God, block management. And okay, when you could just sign in and go, and you might be the 30th person there that day. What kind of experience is that going to be? You're taking your gun for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And is that what Montana really needs to sell?
Is that a big thing because a lot more percentage of the land out in eastern Montana is just private versus out west? Is that kind of where that?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's why there's more of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And according to
go ahead.
According to a recent article that came out, your friend and mine participated in said article, but they're blaming outfitters and like land trust, for we're losing block management acreage. When in all essence, a lot of that is poor hunter behavior. And that's why a lot of these landowners are getting out of block management, because they're getting tired of the way their land gets treated.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that I told you I kind of in my family there's an alfalfa ranch that's great pheasant hunting, central Utah. My grandpa used to let people freely come on that land and hunt. He would just, he didn't have any no trespassing signs. There was no orange posts. There was nothing. Anybody can go on there, and everybody knew it. They can go on that land and hunt. But after a few shotgun shells to the barn and a dead sheep and some torn up fences and gates left open and ruts in the alfalfa fields and whatnot, that you see that kind of chaos, it came into a strictly managed system where you had to pay a fee to have access to that land to hunt. And people were up in arms about it. But all of a sudden, all those rutted up fields and dead sheep and broken fences and broken busted gates and gates being left open and all the livestock getting left out in the wrong pasture or let out, all that ended because when you say, because I know you're probably talking about Matt Ranella, when you say that he's talking about this thing where it's all the outfitters and the land trust taking those rights away or taking that access away, I call BS on that, because I agree with what you're saying. It is people that have, and I don't know if it's like a societal thing that has changed, where people have this entitlement-minded kind of philosophy as to, well, this isn't my land, but I have free reign to go onto it and shoot holes through the barn and let the cattle out. And I don't care what the consequences to this landowner is, because back in the old, and I'm no spring chicken, but I'm not like, I don't know how it was back in the 50s or 60s. But I could tell you that, like, even as close to like the 80s and early 90s, that mentality did not exist. When we hunted on somebody else's land or when they hunted on our land, we all respected the fact that this guy has a particular way he wants this gate left or doesn't want you to drive over there. Okay, I guess the mindset back then was like, I'm not going to take advantage of this person's kindness to allow me to hunt this land, and all that was respected. And then that changed. And I don't know, again, is this a societal thing where people just think that they own everything and they could do whatever they want and to hell with the consequences? I don't get it.
Yeah, I agree, because there is no consequences. But now maybe they're starting to see that unintended consequence, if there's losing acreage.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, again, we ranch as well. We're landowners, obviously not in block management. But I know a lot of landowners, and they get disgusted. The happiest day of landowners year is the day season ends.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Because they don't have to deal with it anymore. Obviously, if they're leased to an outfitter, whatever, that's the outfitter's responsibility, not theirs. They don't have to worry about anything. But these guys that don't do anything, they're not leased to an outfitter, not in block management, whatever, or in block management, they're just tired of it because it's never ending.
Yeah.
It's just ruthless.
It is. It's ruthless. They get solicited all day long, multiple times a day. Hey, can I hunt your land? Can I hunt your land? And it's and I get it. We all do want that exclusive access. Right. I had the opportunity for 6 days to take one of my hunters on this ranch here locally that it was something else. Rod, I have never hunted somewhere like this. These unpressured, rutted up whitetail. I've never experienced something like this. And I think I talked about it in the last episode, so I don't want to repeat myself like I usually do, because that's what I do. but I just can't get over how much action we saw and having that exclusive access. And I personally couldn't kill a deer on it, but my hunter could, and he sure did. And we all want that, and I want everybody to want that, because it's totally a different experience. But
the people in hell want ice water too, and it just ain't gonna happen all the time.
Exactly. It's just and that's what I think I'm getting at is it's just not realistic to expect that. And I think that we as a nation, like a lot of things that happen to our society, is we start getting this,
sense of entitlement.
Yeah, sense of entitlement, and sense like a spoiled kid kind of mentality, where it's like, look, when you look at the fact that if you compare us to like Europe and all the other countries throughout the world, with the exception of like Canada, you look at the American West and how much access to public land that we have, and then you compare that to like Europe, where you don't even have any access to any public land whatsoever, and you still want to bitch that you don't have enough access on land and that landowners are screwing you because you're not allowed to hunt on that land. That's where it kind of, at some point, we become a bunch of toddlers.
Yeah, and there is reasonable access to millions of acres in Montana, quality acres. But it goes right back to what you're saying. They don't want to leave their vehicle. They don't want to have to sweat it all.
No,
it shouldn't be that hard, right?
And I don't,
in their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to. I don't mean to turn this episode into let's bitch about hunters.
No,
but at the same time, I told you about all the flack I'm going to get by saying that about overcrowded units and whatnot, and a couple other things I've said on this. At the same time, like guys like me that do a podcast or do work with Eastmans and all this other stuff, we tend to catch most of the bitching that goes on from hunters. We see all of this, and a lot of it's directed at us because we have opinions, and heaven forbid we share our opinion, And I don't mind it. I don't mind a little bit of that, but I do wonder, like there are, man. I can't even get on Facebook anymore because I'm in all these hunting groups, and it doesn't matter what you post. The negativity and the nastiness and the vitriol in those comment sections of people that like don't even know what the hell they're talking about, it like drives me batty. I just don't know where we.
Well,
yeah. I'm like gonna just be done doing it. I can't get on Facebook anymore.
Just makes you mad, doesn't it?
It does. I just like.
I shouldn't even use the term "makes me mad." It disappoints.
Yeah,
more than anything.
Disappoints is a great way to put it, Rod. That's a great way to put it. It's disappointing that grown men and women behave in such a way. Like when I post something, and recently I had this post that went viral, and I got hundreds of messages about or from the anti-hunting movement, right? these people that are like, you shouldn't be proud of anything if you're killing and you're a sick bastard and I wish that was you. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of these anti-hunting folks in their comments. Those don't bother me. And like, I am, when I cut my fingernails and I flush the fingernail clippings down the toilet, those fingernail clippings care more about their comments than I do. But the hunters that get on there and rag out all the other hunters and like bully and talk smack and pick on and like we can't have a disagreement. Like if we disagree for some reason in person at the bar, if you and I were sitting there and we didn't agree about, a mule deer season or something, we're still going to sit there and enjoy each other's company and have a beer and whatever. But on Facebook, by golly, if you disagree with somebody, you are bitter enemies to the end. I hate it.
Yeah, because they can hide behind that screen.
Yeah. And nobody's there to punch them in the mouth.
No.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's some changes. Not me. We think there's some changes that need to be made. It was really interesting to see all walks of I hate to say all walks of life, but all, different angles of the hunting community come together. And in 10 minutes, we were on the same page. We'd been on the same page. We just expressed ourselves differently.
Wow. That's amazing.
It was amazing. It was really cool. And we'd be talking about something, and Eric Elvis, the owner of Milk River Outfitters, were sitting down at the other table. And pretty soon they'd turn and look, well, if we did this, how would this negatively affect what you're doing? And we're like, no, we can get around it. Don't worry about us. Or right back, we might ask them that. And they're like, no, we can get around that. Not a problem. But it was pretty damn cool. Really cool.
And that just goes to show that, like, that is the way to communicate with people and especially bring people of differing views to the table and have these kind of like adult conversations. And that's why I like doing this podcast, because I do want to have these tougher conversations. And like I don't know that you've said anything that I necessarily disagree with. But there is a tinge of me that kind of is like, man, not having that rifle mule deer season open in November would, let's face it, it would kind of be a bummer. But at the same time, I've seen the decline in mule deer, and something's got to give. And I'm willing to sacrifice that season and put in more effort in October to go find me a mule deer. And so, like, this is how these conversations can actually move the needle. It's not going to happen on Facebook, in a Facebook group.
No.
Like what's that group? There's a Facebook group called Montana Hunters or something like that. And man, it is just the nastiest group I've ever seen. These guys get so mean with each other.
Yeah. The one thing people need to just stop and think about, okay, the upfront thought of it, just like you said, you really missed that. Maybe, let's say that got implemented, and in 2 years, we might all be looking back thinking, wow, God, we're glad we did that.
Yeah,
maybe,
I think we would be.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Maybe our average inches would go up 20. Plus 15 if you're an inch guy, whatever. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
Maybe your average age class would go up 2 years, year and a half, whatever.
Either way,
now we're winning, and the resource is winning, and the quality of our experience is winning.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
It's going to take a year or two for it to really reap the benefits, but like say, nobody likes change. I get it.
Yeah, everybody's resistant to change at first, but I think you're right on the money there. So, well, Rod, this has been a great discussion, man. I really appreciate you giving me an hour here, and I actually learned quite a bit. I need to talk to more guys like you that have a lot more experience on that side of it and the actual in the trenches management type kind of stuff, because. Tell everybody, Rod, how much do you get paid to sit on that council?
Exactly $0.
$0.
And that's totally fine with me.
And that's what I'm talking about is people that actually put their feet to the fire and their skin in the game without some kind of, reward for it. it's only simply because you actually do care. And I have a lot more respect for guys like you that give your time and give your energy and your effort, and it probably takes time away from your outfitting business and your family and your ranch and everything else that you got going on to go sit and do these meetings. But you want what's best for the wildlife of Montana, and that's saying a lot more than some of these folks that are fixing to send me a nasty email right now after they get done listening to this. And not really doing anything about it. And I don't say that in like a harsh or mean thing to any of you. If you want to send me a dirty email, not a dirty email, that sounds bad. If you want to send me a mean email, I get it. That's totally fine. I actually like the discussion because a lot of times I'll get them and we'll end up having a conversation and find that we don't actually disagree that much. So, but anyway, I just that was a long way of me saying I appreciate the fact that you give your time and your energy into like a big topic like mule deer. Mule deer management is a wildly huge topic. There's so many levels and layers to it, and you know I believe this with any kind of wildlife management. I don't think there's one single solution that's going to be the cure-all. It's going to be a series of small pains that we all as hunters have to take at some point to make it better and make it last in the future.
I agree 100%. And the one thing I will leave you with, or the audience, is, and I did it when I did a podcast with Ike, is get involved. Don't just be that person that's not you, but people that are listening. Don't just sit back and bitch or whine. If you don't have a solution, but you want to scream and holler, that's whining. Come up with an idea, and kick it around out there, bounce it off people. I guess that's one thing I want to leave it with is get involved, and that doesn't mean picking a fight on Facebook. That means actually having solution, your ideas to, of solutions that could help.
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage everybody listening to just stop commenting on Facebook because you're going to elicit negative responses anyway. I don't know. That's easier said than done. But, to your point, Rod, like the local comment periods done by the Fish and Game agencies in whatever state you're living in, you can always tell, there's 100% of people with opinions on Facebook, but during that in-person comment period, when the Fish and Game opens up that conference room door, there's like 10 people there in a unit full of 30,000 guys. And so that's telling you right there that to your point, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. You need to get involved, go to these meetings, share your opinion in person with politeness, and try to move the needle in a positive way, because the future of hunting depends on all of this. It's
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Well, thanks again, Rod. Tell everybody where they can find you on with your outfitter and on social.
I don't do a lot of social media, but I've got a website, sizzlinsoutfitters.com. And, we've got a website there with pictures and prices, all that stuff. We're just kind of self-explanatory. We shoot our photos up from 24 here the next week or so. Got a great year again, killed some really nice bulls, a lot of nice field there, some really good whitetail, and some big animals. So we're good. Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. Well,
I'm glad it's over.
Yeah. I kind of am too. I'm happy to be out of it. It was a long season, but I will put the Sizzlin' S Outfitters website in the show notes, guys, if you want to check that out. If you are in the market to maybe book an outfitter, don't be shy to check that out and see what we can.
Or if they want to email me and bounce some ideas off, that's totally fine too.
Yeah, I would assume you've got like an email address they can send that to on the website.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool, guys. That'll all be in the show notes. Thanks again. I really appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Rod.
Jim.
I'm glad Reekers hooked us up for this, and we'll let's keep in touch and do it again.
Thank you, Jim. You take care. Have a good Christmas if I don't talk to you.
Yeah, you too. You made it. That's the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Western Huntsman and write us a good review at Apple Podcasts. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.